All right, this is the conclusion, really, of my scientific literacy series because, it's been a hard series to do, but I've done it for the sake of those of you who've wanted to learn. I'm not going to be able to cover every single subject, like, let's say, global warming. I can't cover every single subject like that. What you need to know about global warming is that CO2 does warm a system, okay? And so the more CO2, the more it's going to warm a system. I mean, that's a simple, elementary scientific fact. That's what you need to know. So does methane. I mean, both of these warm a system. If you want to get more complex, you got to go into climate science and do the research for yourself. I did a little bit on, the fact that the Earth moves around the sun, and that's not as easy to do as you might think. I mean, most of you are saying that's elementary science, but for the 18% who don't believe it, it's not so elementary, and so I have to explain it. I didn't get into elliptical orbits and Kepler's laws of motion and that type of thing. I kept it as simple as I could. And I also did a little bit on evolution and kept it very much within the narrow constraints of the science. I want to emphasize on the evolution question that a lot of the geologists who laid the groundwork for Darwin were themselves very pious. And on this one, I'm going to discuss the Big Bang. The people who actually, like say Father Lemaitre, okay, he helped to popularize the Big Bang. Now, he was a Catholic priest. Because actually the more atheistically leaning scientists didn't want to believe there was an origin to the universe, okay? And so he, in a sense, by positing the idea of t=0 or the idea of an origin, he was more likely to believe in the idea of an origin to the universe than even Einstein, who rejected the idea. He was not an atheist, but maybe just didn't believe in the idea of the origin to the universe. He didn't believe in the religion of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, or that type of thing. So, in a sense, in terms of laying the groundwork for both the evolution and the Big Bang, religiously pious scientists were crucial. So, to let you understand that, just so there's a sense of balance in all this, even Sir Charles Darwin spoke of the deity in the last page of Origin of Species. Some say that it was his wife who wanted him to do that. But science is not a set of philosophical premises about whether the universe is a quote-unquote accident or not, whatever that even means. Science is a mode of discovery. It is a mode of discovering facts based on testable observations. That is what science is. And the more you know about science, the less the politicians, the less the businessmen, the less the scam artists are going to be able to fool you. Because as it is, if 18% of you guys don't know that the Earth goes around the sun, you're going to be easy to fool. This is why I make this video series. I make it for the good of democracy itself, because if you go back to the Age of Enlightenment, if you go back to Jefferson, he believed that if we were not educated, we were not going to be good citizens. And so that's really my reason for making this video series on scientific literacy. It has been for your sake, much more than mine. Okay, let's wrap up on one more question. That's the Big Bang. Apparently only 17% of the... Oh, by the way, for those of you in other countries who look down on Americans because 18% of us believe that the sun goes around the Earth, the stats are actually a lot higher in the so-called more advanced countries. In fact, only 17% of people in China believe in the Big Bang. Now, China is supposedly this rational country of, people who aren't stuck on religion because they've had, that they're not like Westerners with this heavy religious background, but only 17% of Chinese people believe in the Big Bang. That's actually lower than in the United States. Interesting. And also it's interesting that in Europe, even though they accept evolution more than in the United States, more people in Europe believe cavemen and dinosaurs lived together than in the United States. So just don't be so high and mighty, other countries. Dinosaurs lived well before cavemen. So don't be high and mighty. Just say it. All right. Okay, so Anyhow, the Big Bang. What the Big Bang is not. The Big Bang is not the idea that all matter started in a little speck and then exploded out into space. That's not what the Big Bang is. I mean, you're right to be skeptical of, man, how did the all matter just start in a little speck and explode out into space like that? And that doesn't make sense. CHistrue, get out of here. You know, just don't bother me with that. Well, no, you're right. And that isn't what the Big Bang was. The Big Bang was the origin of our space-time continuum itself, which, if you think about it, could be very mystical. I mean, that can be a very compatible with religion, if you so believe. I mean, the idea is that all of space-time was what was called a singularity, like in the center of a black hole, a point in which matter is infinitely dense. Now, this is the orthodox Big Bang theory, according to Lemaitre and Hubble and those folks. Got more complicated later on when they tried to reconcile it with quantum physics. But let's just say it was a singularity, infinitely dense, just for now, okay, to keep it simple. At some point, time itself began, and you had the birth of what we would call space-time, the universe. Some say the universe is finite but unbounded, which means if you go, it's like the surface of a balloon, except a three-dimensional surface of a multi-dimensional balloon. Okay, and if you go far enough in one direction, space and time itself is curved and looped. Remember Albert Einstein, okay? Albert Einstein stated that space-time itself can curve. And so if you go far enough in one direction, you go around in the other direction, and yet that continuum itself has been expanding since the Big Bang. Now, there's another theory that as soon as the Big Bang happened, the universe would then become infinite, okay? But since infinities, you can have greater and lesser infinities, according to that point of view, you would also have an expanding universe since the Big Bang. It's just that the point became infinity, which is really mysterious if you think about it. I mean, that's where you can really get into some religious narratives if you want to go in that direction. Either way. But what the Big Bang was proposed to explain, whether you accept the Big Bang or not, okay, and that's a heavy-duty cosmology. I mean, it's accepted among scientists now. Steady-state theories have declined in popularity. But what the Big Bang was proposed to explain was what's called the redshift. And that is, the further away a galaxy is, the more red its spectrum shifts. Now, that would be what's called the Doppler shift, okay? The more red something is, the longer the wavelength. Think of sound, like with a motorcycle. As a motorcycle comes towards you, the sound frequency increases. And then it goes past you, it goes, okay, and then it goes a lower and lower frequency. Well, the same thing with light. If something is moving towards you, although the equations with light are different, okay, they're described by relativity, but as something moves towards you, it gets bluer and bluer, higher frequency, and as something moves away from you, it gets redder and redder, lower frequency. Well, the further away the galaxy was, the more there was a redshift. And so the more, what they deduced from that is that the further away the galaxy was, the faster it was moving away from us. Until eventually, at some point way the heck out there, that the galaxy would have to be moving faster than light, which is not possible according to relativity. So what they said is, you know what, it's got to be space-time itself that's expanding. It's the only possible explanation, and as incredible as it sounds, it conforms to all of the observations that have been had of science since. And if you doubt general relativity, if you doubt the general relativity of Einstein and the idea that time can pass differently according to different frames of reference, what all you have to know is that satellites depend on it to function. So I don't have time to really explain general relativity now, but it's the idea that space and time itself can curve, and satellites depend on it for functioning. And so according to general relativity itself, the idea of the expansion of space-time is the only thing that can explain the redshift. So right there in a nutshell, you have what the Big Bang is. The Big Bang is not a point of matter exploding out into empty space. It's space itself expanding. That's pretty wild stuff. I mean, that's more wild than some of the junk science out there that people believe. I think if people want mystery, they should actually explore the real thing and not the kind of pseudoscience that's out there. That's the conclusion of the Scientific Literacy Series. If you want to know more, go to your local library. Thank you.